see.
John Carpenter is an iconic horror director that has made so many fantastic projects, stamping themselves in the history books as some of the greatest of all time. The People Under the Stairs, They Live, Halloween. There are too many impeccable examples, but the one film that always stood out to me was The Thing. A classic tale of isolation, human error, paranoia, and constant anxiety, The Thing was one of those movies you watched as a kid that never left your mind. There are so many fantastic scenes, characters, and set pieces that it remains a very popular topic by most people today. Many don't even realize that Carpenter's version is actually a remake of the 1951 sci-fi film, The Thing from Another World. Though it's loosely based on that film, Carpenter brought a special kind of charm to cinema when he made The Thing, starring big-name actors like Kurt Russell and Keith David, as well as many other respectable ones, that made their mark in one of the most powerful, scary movies ever. The gruesome violence, the bloody brutality, the conversations and realistic tension, as well as the disturbingly interesting threat, are the main conversational pieces whenever this film gets brought up. The thought of an alien species that consumes anything it comes across in an attempt to preserve its own life and take on the form of whatever it digests is infinitely frightening, yet no modern film of this genre has come anywhere close to replicating it. John Carpenter's The Thing is a movie that I would love to talk about, considering last summer I spent a whole day watching it on repeat. I'm not kidding, I've seen this movie almost as many times as I've seen Predator, which remains my favorite film of all time. A little redfox trivia for you. Maybe there'll come a time when I can review the full-length film in its entirety, but I do have time now to discuss its canonical sequel that never made it to theaters. Instead, the continuation of The Thing's narrative was developed as a PlayStation 2 video game, then later remastered for modern-day consoles and PC. The Thing was released as a movie-licensed action horror game that aimed to continue the storyline from John Carpenter's film. I'm not pulling shit out of my ass either. Carpenter himself has confirmed that the game is canonical and serves as a massive tribute to the fans, offering a new unique look into the same universe as before, with some new characters and a new series of events. It's a lot of new shit. There are lots of things you can say about this one, but I'm gonna keep it simple for now. This is a review, but it's also personal to me. I fucking love The Thing, and as I stated earlier on, there hasn't been anything remotely close by today's standards. So I'll stop wasting time and start dissecting the satisfying sequel to a beloved universe that may never get a proper comeback. If you've already seen Carpenter's version, then the introduction needs no explanation. The game picks up some time after the ending scene, with a new character being introduced to the mix. You play as Captain Blake, who operates a military rescue operation sent to investigate the same Antarctic outpost that the movie took place in. Blake is no Kurt Russell, but he's pretty cool. I liked all of his quips, his no-nonsense demeanor, and honestly, he's the only one who does shit in the game. It's up to him and his squad to save whoever may be left alive in the brisk, freezing cold, or risk dying to an otherworldly threat that aims to spread itself across the continent, if possible.
What the hell?
What do you think it is, Captain?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Looks like a goddamn UFO to me. This shit gives me the creeps.
Yeah, we're not alone in the universe and all that crap. Check it out and move on. We've completed the explosives placement. Standing by for evac. Anything from Alpha Team?
Negative. Could be the storm.
Must be. I've been getting partial transmissions for the last hour or so. I'm going to assemble my team. When the chopper arrives, I'll have it drop me at Alpha's rendezvous.
Negative. You have your orders, Captain. Don't put this mission in jeopardy.
I understand, Colonel, but I don't have much choice. Pierce's team is in trouble. Besides, if there are any survivors, I'm the only one on the team that speaks Norwegian. Blake out. Identify yourself!
Captain, it's Carter. Christ, where's everybody?
What happened here?
Something. I don't know what they were, but they attacked us. I thought they was part of the... Wait a minute. Don't you come any closer. Where the hell did you come from anyways?
A chopper brought me in. From the U.S. research station, 5 clicks south of here.
I'm hurt pretty bad.
Don't move, I'll see what I can do.
Blake, where'd you come from?
I received some partial transmissions from Pierce. It sounded like there was a problem.
Shit, you got that right. We got ambushed by these things. I don't know where they came from, man. Everybody lost it. The squad split up.
Have you talked to Pierce?
I got part of a radio message from him. He said he was at the north section of the base. He was talking some medical mumbo shit. He said he wanted to talk to the colonel.
The colonel hasn't contacted you?
Man, I haven't heard shit from anyone.
Let me try my radio. Blake to Colonel Whitley, do you read? Blake to Colonel Whitley, urgent. Alright, let's head north and get Pierce.
The movie highlighted many different factors in terms of how the creature works and what its goals might be. Though we don't have the magic of practical effects, we do have plenty of dangerous threats, as presented by the enemies you'll encounter this time around. The game expands a little more on the alien, showing multiple variants that will give you tons of anxiety. I'll go ahead and start off by introducing these monstrosities. Scuttlers are the most common type of thing creature. They're a bunch of puny, bipedal, bug-like pieces of shit that move faster than a rabbit on speed. They might be small in size, but they're still a formidable foe, dealing insane amounts of damage to Blake if they lunge at him. I wish I could say they were easy to kill, but due to how fast they move, it can be tricky. Scuttlers often spawn through the entire game, and at times they seem endless. This is done intentionally to try and sell more of that fear that this creature is spreading like wildfire, casting multiple hosts of itself into the real world. You'll always know when some of them are nearby if you happen to hear them growling. Imitations are the creepiest enemy simply because they walk among our main character. You'll never know if someone is actually a thing unless you perform a blood test on them or turn your back for even a moment's notice. Sometimes the members of your squad will transform before your very eyes, and before you know it, you're killing another one of the fucking things. I love their creepy designs. They kinda remind me of fodders from Dead Space 3, but with their own unique charm. The only way to kill these things is to damage them with standard gunfire, then set their asses ablaze. Walkers come in 2 different shapes, with one resembling a human being, and the other looking more like some kind of, I don't know, a mantis shrimp? The humanoid walkers are significantly faster, but the shrimp ones deal the most damage. Much like imitations, walkers and these shrimp things can only be definitively killed via flame. It helps if you have a flamethrower, but early on you can find some thermal grenades that'll do the job just fine. At fixed points, you'll have to worry about tentacles that protrude from the walls, smacking and whacking Blake in his face. They have minimal health, but insane reach. The same goes for scuttler pods, which spawn the little shit-eaters all over the place. Dog beasts are the brute-like enemies, and they earn every right to be called that. They're massive in size, and can deal a number of damage to Blake or his squad mates. My personal recommendation is to blast away with a shotgun, then follow it up by burning the big son of a bitch. You don't face many of these, but whenever you do, it's very intense. The equipment you have is a different story, but effective all the same. You can obtain lots of throwable items and trust-earning gadgets for your squad. The high-explosive grenade, as well as the hand grenade, are extremely effective in cleaning up a messy situation. I find them to be the most useful on scuttlers, especially because the game is so lenient with spawning them. Other equipment items include a blood test. The game claims that these are extremely rare, but they're not. In almost every new area that Blake unlocks, you can comfortably find plenty to use, either on yourself or on a teammate. If Blake injects himself, it brings everyone's trust way up. If he does it to another squad mate, there's a chance that they will reveal themselves as a thing creature. Aside from boss fights and tentacles, the scuttlers are the only beings capable of being fully killed with gunfire. Anything bigger than that will require flames, which is why fire is your best friend in this game. You can even lay down a path of fire so that your enemies can't get around it, easing the tension and giving you a chance to fight back and regain any lost strength. Medkits are the standard way of healing yourself, but the controls are a bit wonky. Basically, if you want to heal anyone other than you can approach the person in need and click the middle mouse button. There's no visual indication that it worked, and sometimes this causes you to use two of them by accident, but it's a neat mechanic. The flashlight is a stackable tool that is used for lighting up the darkest areas of this frozen place. To my knowledge, you never really run out of batteries. I ended up using flashlights for a good chunk of time, and despite collecting more than one, they never ran out of juice. The batteries in these things must be powered by nuclear energy. Flares are useful for lighting your way, and I believe you can ward off some of the enemies with them. The blowtorch is like a mini flamethrower, allowing you to use a generic firearm while quickly tossing some fire at the creatures as a nice combo. It doesn't have much range or power, but it's nice to have when you find yourself battling a stronger beast. Stun grenades will buy you time by disorienting and blinding the creatures. I'll admit, I kinda wish the movie had a scene like that. Imagine what a scene from the movie would look like if someone just tossed a fucking stun grenade at the thing. I'll admit I never really used these though, considering how easy it is to kill the monsters. There's no need to stun them when I can set them ablaze and roast some marshmallows at the same time. Adrenaline, in my opinion, is the rarest item in the game. I only ever found a couple, and though I didn't use them, I can imagine they're extremely useful on harder difficulties. That being said, it felt pretty cool to introduce this mechanic. Having that ability to use a separate item while holding a firearm in the other hand makes for a compelling gameplay spin. The strange thing about this game is how much of a breeze it is. It's less like a horror story, and more like an action-adventure with horror elements. I really do like this title, as it reminds me of an old-school Resident Evil competitor like Cold Fear. The plot is interesting, but it doesn't take too much from the movie, allowing it to expand upon the lore in a new way. Eventually, these military goons arrive with the intent of weaponizing the alien virus that consumes everything it sees. Whitley, the guy who's been leading the operation through the radio, ends up becoming the main villain as he plans to weaponize the Thing virus for his own personal gain. The story to the game is, well, it's not bad, not even in the slightest, but I do have a couple of formal complaints that, hopefully, you won't hold against me. In general, this is a fantastic adaptation and sequel to the amazing film that it's based on, but I can't help the fact that some of its flaws tend to be rather noticeable. Before I get to that, I'll continue to glaze this treasure for just a few more minutes. At some point, Blake has to rescue a scientist that helped study the creature long after the original team did. This scientist is named Dr. Faraday. He might look a little familiar to some of you. That's because it's John fucking Carpenter. No way, man. That's some crazy shit.
Dr. Faraday, I presume.
I don't think we've got time for formal introductions. Can you get us out of here?
Sure, Doc. Follow me. Oh, and keep your ass covered. I'd hate to see you get an unwanted suppository.
I always love when directors continue to be a part of their own greatness, and he's no stranger to creative cameos. My jaw dropped when I realized it was the legend himself doing the voice, even though his scenes are quite short.
What do you think you're doing, Faraday?
The infection is spread across the base. All of the organisms have to be destroyed. If it reaches the mainland, there's no stopping it.
Quite the contrary. I'm living proof that the infection can be controlled.
No, that's not possible.
The results can't be ignored, Doctor. I will be remembered as the first successful test subject.
No, not if I can help it.
I don't need your help.
There's another cameo at the end of the game, but I'll get to that in a bit.
Need some help?
Yeah, no shit.
It's very easy to feel overwhelmed in a game like The Thing, simply because a lot of the environmental stuff is designed to be claustrophobic and linear. There's not a whole lot of room to get away from the hazards and creatures, so you're forced to, sometimes, attack them head on. One might complain about the fact that you can easily get swarmed, but the point of The Thing, and its lore, is that it is a mass-producing, almost unstoppable machine, bent on surviving as long as possible, even if it means camouflaging among the organisms it consumes. It makes sense that you're always checking over your shoulder, and it's a chilling experience because of this. I like how some electrical panels in the game can be operated by Blake, whereas most of them require the help of an engineer. You can't always rely on the main character to get through, and this goes back to how essential it is to keep your squad mates alive. Otherwise, you'll pretty much get stuck and have to redo a specific task. During your mission, you'll meet survivors who are lost and terrified to roam on their own. The goal with these lemmings is to gain their trust and keep them safe, whether it be giving them ammo or a medkit. This is a powerful game mechanic that really stood out to a lot of people for the time. I realize how late we are into the video, and I didn't even mention the guns themselves. The SMG is a rapid-firing weapon that stores tons of ammo and can easily extinguish the smaller enemies. Hell, even the bigger ones are no match for this puny thing. It has a high-capacity magazine and decent accuracy. The tactical shotgun is everything you'd hope for: powerful, sturdy, and addicting. It was probably my most prized possession, considering it can do irreparable damage to these fucking things. Once you have it, you're pretty much set, and can happily mow down the monsters that hunt you. The pistol is a surprisingly effective firearm with yet another high magazine size and a fast firing rate. That's pretty straightforward. There's a sniper rifle that can deal excessive amounts of damage if you hit the enemies directly. The scope is a bit wonky to understand, but overall, this rifle grants you the advantage of distance, and you can therefore scope out an area before you enter. The grenade launcher is a much more effective tool than just throwing the grenades individually by hand. Using this beast of a weapon, you can launch any of the 4 grenade types, dealing massive damage. Damn, I don't remember that in the movie. Can you imagine if MacReady or even Gary had access to a fucking grenade launcher? Last but certainly not least, we have the flamethrower. This is probably the most essential weapon, considering every bigger variant of the thing will need to be burnt in order to stay dead for good. Tanks are plentiful, and you can literally become unstoppable so long as you know where to aim at. Look at these shit for brains. They're just standing there waiting to die. I'll help speed up the process. Okay, I think now I can easily transition to the complaints. I just hope that none of you take personal offense. Like I said, this is a beautiful game and a great fan service that does its job well, but there are plenty of aspects that kinda made me scratch my head. And please feel free to correct me or comment anything I might have missed, because sometimes I make mistakes. I'm only human. For one, there aren't a whole lot of enemy varieties. I stated this earlier, but the game loves to spawn scuttlers so much that you'll feel like you're going fucking crazy. It was really easy for me to get bored by their existence, because after a while, they stopped becoming a nuisance and started becoming a headache. Like walking with a pebble in your goddamn shoe, but every time you go to remove it, somehow 12 more get in there. It's ridiculous. There's a great scene in the game where Blake and his team has to hold off a few waves of the thing creatures, but it's mostly scuttlers. Why the fuck didn't they come up with another small enemy? Sure, there are spitter scuttlers that can slow you down if they hit you with their obnoxious liquids, but this doesn't deal any damage to Blake. It just makes him walk slow, like a puker from Dead Space. The scuttlers are extremely fast, which means you're gonna waste quite a bit of ammunition if you aren't that accurate. You can enter first person to gain the advantage, but they're always on the move, making it harder for you to time your shots. Weirdly enough, there are some moments where you'll see the scuttlers just before attacking you, but this defeats the suspense a little bit. Were these mini cutscenes really necessary? It would have been more intimidating if I had no clue I was being watched and followed by these bastards. The tougher enemies are there, but they don't get much screen time, I'm afraid. The boss battles are fun and exhilarating, but they don't last long either. And for some reason, a random person seems to have placed a ton of ammo boxes everywhere in the Antarctic facilities. I never had to struggle with ammo, at least until Blake meets Whitley, gets knocked out, and wakes up in a facility where the thing was once being studied. Upon awakening, you find that all of your items and weapons have been confiscated. I've said this in the past, and I'm gonna say it here as well. I fucking hate when games do this. Especially horror games, there's absolutely no need to take all of my fucking gear after I spent so long gathering it. Your ammunition, gadgets, and everything else are stripped away in a poor attempt to transition the game from an action-packed joyride to a slow slog through murky waters. If the intent was to make me feel powerless against the creatures, I guess it works, but not in a good way. This just means I have to figure out all kinds of shit in order to get by. Look, I somehow locked that walker in the cell, but what do I do about all this other shit? The labs are easily the weakest part of the game, aside from the endgame. One step at a time though. You have to solve an elaborate puzzle here involving both the security system and the guidance of your squad. You can't proceed through the lasers, or else Blake will get butt-rushed by a bunch of commandos working under Whitley's orders. With your DNA on file, none of the areas are accessible. You have to send one of your people through, but they're no match for the imitations and scuddlers roaming around. There's also a really annoying glitch that can happen if you're not being careful. You need an engineer in order to get past this level, but if he dies, you're soft-locked and can't progress. If you save after all of them are dead, you are FUQD fucked. The only weapon you have for a while is the mounted camera turret, but it's in a fixed position, and it's very awkward for the time. I hated the labs, mostly because the entire area is trial and error. Once you figure out what you have to do and where to go, it's a cakewalk, but for a first-time player, no way. Another complaint I have is the fact that members of your team won't automatically follow you, even if you gain their trust. You still have to access the menu, then give them an order to stay behind you. If you fail to do this, which I often did, they'll just stand still like a bunch of fucking idiots, waiting to be killed or worse. Your team doesn't even transition into the next level most of the time, so it feels kinda pointless to gather everybody. Look at this cutscene and tell me you can keep a straight fucking face. I dare you. Okay, so that was what I was supposed to see. But I'm so confused. I wasn't expecting those fucking two guys to immediately burst into fucking blood and guts. Oh boy. Oh my lord. This game is fun. This is what I was supposed to see, but instead, for some reason, on the first attempt of killing this Rupture boss, the game automatically took me into the next level. However, when I died in the airfield, I was taken back to the boss. What the fuck? Did the game just time travel by accident? The narrative is pretty interesting and cool, but I'm a bit disappointed that they copped out near the end and started spawning armed goons. Look, I get that they had to add something other than the Thing creatures. Actually, no, I don't. Who the fuck are these human beings that are somehow capable of not only containing, but trapping the Thing creatures? Do you realize how silly that sounds? Even though the main characters from the film are inexperienced laborers in an isolated part of the world, they couldn't keep this monster from breaking out and murdering the others. But now, all of a sudden, a small army of military douchebags can? Seems a bit inconsistent. If they wanted to expand on the horror of the universe and make the monster's strength more accurate, it would have been a totally different sequence of events. Imagine if Blake came across a destroyed airbase filled to the brim with infected soldiers that have distorted and dangerous variations. It would make sense and would still be frightening. But near the end, the game kinda mimics Max Payne more than John Carpenter's film. Don't get me wrong, they still throw in plenty of monster fights, but with the added threat of armed guards, it feels a bit weaker than intended. At least in my opinion. Not saying that the soldiers are poorly designed or anything. No, wait, yes I am. I was hoping for some combative opponents, but as it turns out, most of the soldiers just wander around aimlessly. You can shoot a soldier 10 feet away from his buddy, and they simply won't react most of the time. Another thing, the fucking sniper rifle. For a weapon that's supposed to be useful in terms of long-range combat, it sucks a crooked dick. I could never get this thing to work properly because the bullets randomly disappear if you're too far away. Like, what the fuck? How am I not hitting him? Is this an engine limitation thing, or did they just forget entirely to program the rifle to work as fucking intended? It's powerful, sure, but you really gotta treat it like a shotgun and get really close, apparently. It is absolutely worth the time, energy, and money if you're planning on buying the Remastered Edition. But, man, I kinda disliked how rushed the ending was. Through some of the documents in-game, you find out that Whitley injected himself with the Thing virus, but it's a unique strain that somehow makes him immune to fire.
Game over, Whitley.
Game over?
This game is just beginning.
Before you can face his final form, Blake has to fight through a ton of soldiers first. I'm not gonna lie, this part was okay, but suddenly the game shifts its tone entirely. Whitley becomes the Cloud B4 carrier, which is a massive tower of flesh and blood, hell-bent on destroying everything left. A helicopter appears to assist Blake, and then you're forced into a turret segment. I'm not even kidding. Blake has unlimited ammo, and there's no real danger here, unless you're asleep. Even though it was clear that fire didn't work before, there are still flame barrels scattered in a convenient circle that Blake has to shoot. I thought Whitley was immune to flame. Why would this suddenly work? Hold down the trigger, and eventually, he dies. That's it? That's the end of the canonical universe? The other cameo that appears here is none other than R.J. MacReady, Kurt fucking Russell himself. You know, the coolest guy to exist in the 90s. So it's confirmed officially that he survived after the ending of the film, but how? There's no leading explanation, no mention of any other characters. It just ends with Blake talking to him, and then they fly away. I don't know, an explanation would have been nice, but I guess that's what the fanbase is for. It was very anticlimactic, but overall, John Carpenter's The Thing on PlayStation 2 is a title that was well liked enough to receive a remaster, and that says a lot. I've adored the film my whole life, from the times it kept me awake during childhood, to even now as an adult. It's an iconic piece of horror media that cannot be replicated by anyone, nor should it. The 2011 version tried to give the story more grace, but thanks to a bunch of out-of-touch executives who probably drink their fucking coffee black, we only got to see the CGI slopfest that it is, instead of the practical stuff that makes the creature more frightening. The game is solid, and it serves as a wonderful addition to the lore without relying too much on the film. And even though I complained about them a lot, the idea of the soldiers and a corrupt branch of military trying to utilize the Thing as a weapon of mass destruction is not that far-fetched. Captain Blake is an excellent main character with morals, and I love fighting the enemies in this continuation of a property I hold near and dear to my heart. It had a couple of buggy moments here and there, but I really liked the remaster. The graphics are smoother and way more appealing to the eye. The voice acting is terrific, and the sound design is creepy. It has some rough edges for sure, but in conclusion, I'd happily give this one a cursed Steam rating of 4.5 out of 5. Intense when it wants to be, and downright disgusting in certain areas, it fits very well as a sequel to a beloved horror movie, while adding some extra layers that appeal to fans worldwide. I thank you again for watching this review. Please be patient, because the next few will probably take some time, but hopefully it'll be worth the wait. Stay tuned. and I'll see you guys next time.
How the hell did I get here?